All righty, let's get right to it. He's a current Westwood One announcer, longtime ESPN radio host, Mike Golic Sr. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. How you doing?
Good. Let me throw this at you. Since you were a longtime radio host, on a day like today, if your program director said, Golic, what are you hot on today? What do you want to come out talking about? What would it be on a day like today?
Well, I think it's always the NFL. Unless we were on the day that maybe the U.S. was playing, they don't play till tomorrow. The Netherlands in the World Cup. So that might be something to take up sometime. But listen, football is king, and the game this week, that there's always one or two games that are great games. I mean, Miami coming to San Francisco is an absolute marquee matchup.
Mike, my partner and I, we go back and forth because I took an L a while back. I was talking about Andy Reid and his failures to win the big one in Philly. Got close, got to a Super Bowl, couldn't get it done. And I tried to apply that with Kyle Shanahan, and I know he's early in his career, but, Mike, he hadn't won the big one, and they kind of squandered 10-point leads, in the Super Bowl and last year's NFC Championship game. When I asked you about Kyle and him having anything to prove to you as a head coach, how would you answer that?
I'm always amazed at the owners that pull the trigger on firing coaches that are successful. Marty Schottenheimer got to a couple of AFC Championship games, and he was in Cleveland. My brother was on the team, and he loses his job because he can't get over the hump. I mean, so you're going to tell me that the next person you hire, you're basically hiring to win that one more game. And how hard is that? What kind of crapshoot is that? To have to do. You got a coach that's taking you into the playoffs, taking you to the NFC Championship game, taking you to a Super Bowl, even though you lost it. Why the hell would you think about changing? I mean, that blows my mind. The itchy trigger finger on these owners that said, well, we haven't won the Super Bowl, we got to make a change. Okay, I get it if you're below 500 and never making the playoffs, but you're getting there and you're getting far, and I think San Fran will again this year get far. So to me, personally, I think it's ridiculous to say, okay, we're that close, let's change the coach who brings in his own assistants, who changes the personality of the team, who changes the X's and O's of the team, so let's basically revamp everything. I think it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike, and we're joined by Mike Golic Sr. You look at the Kyle Shanahan, and forget the front office, Mike. A lot of the fans, they had a lead against Kansas City, and we're already kind of saying, well, what if they go far this year when we talk about Jimmy Garoppolo? And I said, let's say they lose in the NFC Championship game again. And people say, well, see, Kyle can't win the big one. And I'm thinking to myself, he's been a head coach for 6 years. If you take away any coach who didn't win, who didn't win a title in their first 6 years, that'd be 90% of the coaches, wouldn't it?
Oh, I go back to what I said. I think it's ridiculous. And think about how San Francisco got bailed out. Whoever, and if it goes up to John Lynch, made the decision, whoever made the decision to trade up to get to Trey Lance. And listen, I don't want to make this a bash Trey Lance because we have no idea what he can do because he hasn't had the chance. And when he got the chance, he got hurt. But you had a team that went to the NFC Championship game. And even after that, they said, hey, Jimmy, thank you for your time. We're going with Trey Lance. And that's what happens because you trade up for a guy to pick him that high. You need to see what he's going to do. San Francisco absolutely got bailed out because Garoppolo needed shoulder surgery. If he didn't need shoulder surgery, he would have been traded and would have been gone. And where would the 49ers be right now once Trey Lance got hurt if you didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo? This guy gets bashed so much. He wins. Is he the greatest quarterback of all time? No, he's not. But he's good enough to take, we got to the Super Bowl, got to an NFC Championship game, and only one team wins the big one every year. One team. This team is loaded and ready to go. I think bringing in a Christian McCaffrey was huge. I think we're finally learning that the trading deadline in the NFL isn't just a date that passes by with nothing happening. You can get quality players. Jimmy Garoppolo has so many options on offense that makes the pre-snap read that much better for him to kind of decide where he wants to go with the ball. And then a second after the snap, he can verify that, and he has a lot of ways to go. And the defense is fantastic there. So I'm amazed at this. In my opinion, whether it's Shanahan, whether it's Lynch, they all got bailed out because Jimmy Garoppolo needed shoulder surgery. That, in all honesty, is what saved this San Francisco season right now.
No, Mike, everything you're saying are facts, and we got a big game against the Dolphins. The Niners do, and I'm trying to stay in the moment and enjoy the ride. But with what you just said, Mike, do you think if Jimmy, let's just say, wins a couple playoff games, NFC Championship game, would they dare say bye-bye again?
Well, I mean, they did it last year, right?
I know.
So, I mean, would it shock anybody if they did it again? If he got to the NFC title game and they lost? That's exactly what happened last year. So would that happen again this year where Trey would be given the chance?
Wow.
Which, again, blows my mind. I personally don't understand it because I'm always a player-first mentality, and I think of the other guys in that locker room. This team is built to win right now. And if you hand the reins to Trey Lance again, he is basically – didn't play a lot in college, and has basically barely played in the NFL. You're going to regress at the quarterback position for a while until you see what Trey Lance's ceiling is. And if you want to go that route, that's fine. That's what happens when you trade up and pick a guy like that number 3. You know, there's ego involved that says, we know what we're doing in getting this guy, so you're going to kind of force him in there to see what he can do.
Mike Golic Sr. joining us on 95.7 The Game. Nick Bosa, where do you put him in terms of the players today, in terms of, defensive players, and then does he have a chance to be one of the best of all time? Is it too early?
That's a tough statement because, you have to be at a high level for years. Reggie White, a Lawrence Taylor, if you're trying to go in that category. I get asked a lot, because I played with Reggie,
right.
Aaron Donald in Reggie's category. I think Reggie's the greatest defensive lineman that ever played. Now, even in the Hall of Fame, there are separate rooms. Reggie and Lawrence Taylor are in the highest room there. Aaron Donald is trending that way as well. For Nick, he's got a lot of time left. Listen, he keeps following what he's doing. Yeah, he's going to end up there, but it's something to do it in 2, 3, 4 years. It's another thing to do it for 10, 12, 15 years. So let's pump the brakes and enjoy him right now as one of the best pass rushing defensive ends in the league, without question, on a great defense. There is no doubt about that. But he's got to keep doing that. I think he even knows that. You got to have to go into the greatest of all time category. You got to have longevity of greatness at a position.
Yeah, see, Mike, we had Michael Irvin on earlier in the week, and he said that the 49ers defense, he compared him to the Bears, of 85. So I think I might have gotten caught up in all that kind of hyperbole. So appreciate you putting me straight there.
Hey, but it's an excellent defense. I love watching them. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be between Philly and San Fran. San Fran has so many weapons on offense, like I said, and Philly is all around very good. Their run defense is a little weak, but San Francisco was in a little bit of an early part with the losses to where they're not going to be in a position to get a bye. So they'll have to play through, obviously, all the playoff games. But I really, really like how they're preparing for the playoffs. It's so different than college. One loss can knock you out of the college playoffs. That's not true in the NFL. Just get into the dance, have your players heal up at the right time and be peaking at the right time. And I think that's what San Francisco can be doing.
Mike, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but something's on my heart, and I just wanted to ask you because you've been around the game, you played the game, and I'm a black man, and I've been rooting for the team with the star in Dallas my whole life. It was passed down to me. And this Little Rock 9 photo with Jerry Jones in it, I wouldn't dare say he's a racist, and he was 14 years old. But my question to you, and I know only God can judge, I'm bothered at his response. He never once talked about the victims and what they had to go through. And I'm dealing with that the way I'm dealing with it. But as a black player on the Cowboys, have you thought about what's happening and what's not being said? How big of a deal that is for their players to play for the team moving forward? Or is it something they don't think about?
I would say for the most part, it's something they don't think about. You get in your own world as a player. So you're in that locker room, and a lot of it is self-preservation, depending on who you are. Dak doesn't have to worry, right? The stars of the team don't really worry. That they're the ones maybe that will, if anybody were to speak out, it's guys that are secure. But let me tell you, as a quote-unquote foot soldier through my 9 years, I was never one of those guys. You know what I'm worried about? Self-preservation, doing my job so I have a job. So a lot of these guys, they're not going to let that affect them. We're not going to ask them, or do we want to look at them and say, we want you guys to now be the social justice crew? You know, maybe we would like that. Maybe we would like them to comment on that and have a take on that. But these guys, the average career is 3 years. These guys are trying to play more than that. So guys that aren't in a position of power, they're going to keep their head down. They're going to play. They're going to not make waves, and they're going to try and make sure they're on this team or make sure they're on another team and make sure they get paid either way. So to ask players to all of a sudden have the social consciousness that again, we would like them to have, and I was with you, that was for Jerry Jones loving to talk and loving to hear himself talk the way he does. He certainly didn't say a whole lot about this. I completely agree with you. I'm just telling you how players deal with things on the inside. They may not like it, and they may have soured on Jerry Jones a little bit. But like I said, they're in it for self-preservation. They're in it to stay in the league, so they're going to keep their head down and do their jobs.
Mike, before I let you go real quick, I know you did radio on the East Coast. How big would it be in New York if Aaron Judge were to sign with the San Francisco Giants?
Oh, my God. Would that be unbelievable? I mean, they're talking about either going back to the Yankees or possibly the Mets, and then you get them out on the West Coast. That would be what a steal because, you know, everybody thinks, oh, guys want to play in New York. And, you know, listen, nowadays, you know, playing in a certain city could have helped you, a bigger city with off-the-field things. That's just not true anymore. When you're as big, and I don't mean just physically, but as great a player as Aaron Judge, you can play anywhere and still get all you want off the field. And obviously, you're going to make a ton on the field. So that would be a major knife into the heart of New York fans, no doubt about it.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And really, we love your work out here, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.